Hey, we're back. And today we're going to talk about what is this? Let's see. 10
The-
steps to a successful home improvement project. How do you like
yes.
that? Perfect. So before we do that, dingle on that bell. That way you get notified next time we post something. You can also hit that subscribe button. That'll also
Russian.
go. And then you can always leave us a note down there. You don't like what we're saying? Leave us a note. You think you got a question? Leave us a note. We'll
If you
reply.
like what we're doing, leave us a note.
Exactly. All right. So let's go ahead and hit this. Let's get started on the 10 steps to a successful home improvement project. And I will hit the share button.
All right. So first thing we need to do, we need to define the project scope.
Correct.
So what does that mean? Well, identify what you want to improve. Are we going to do a kitchen remodel, a bathroom upgrade, new flooring? It could be anything simple or crazy big, right?
Right. Exactly.
So, and
And
then consider the purpose. What are you going to use it for? Is it for functionality? Is your project for energy efficiency? Is it just curb appeal? Maybe to increase the marketability of your home, right?
right, right. And if you're looking to move out in 5 years and the kitchens are 40 years old, well, then might be time to do the upgrade. Enjoy it for a few years before you sell it.
That's what I always say. Enjoy it. I don't understand why people like repaint to sell the house. It's like, don't you wish it looked this nice? You might have stayed if it looked that nice,
Exactly.
you know? So that, okay, so then depending on what the project is, you're going to want to research the design ideas, right? Look at your materials and trends. And trends, you got to be careful. I'm a real advocate for sticking with things that don't seem to go out of fad. For example, the new color for 2023 was
Yeah.
black.
Uh-huh.
So where I live, there's a lot of homes built now that have black windows, black doors, that kind of thing. It's all black.
Right.
Okay. But sometimes it takes 2 years to build the house. So the new color for 2024 wasn't black, but now you have black everywhere. And I can tell you that house was designed in 2023.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So certain things,
Yes.
California driftwood, right?
Uh-huh.
70s came and went. Be careful with trends. You know what I
Correct.
mean? Get a style that was more timeless.
Yes.
All right.
Would agree.
Number two, let's set our budget.
Yes. So,
We need an estimate. Look at that. That's a professional estimate there. Look at all those line items.
yep, there you go. That's kind of where we were at. This is just one that I happen to have. I've been working on today so when we decided to discuss this topic, I figured I'd leave it up. But it's got a list of the contractors, kind of the scope of work that those contractors are going to do. And then I'm talking to them. We're just throwing some spitball numbers at it for right now, just to kind of see where we're going to end up. So I've got a baseline for this spreadsheet, which I'm sure you've got the same thing too. And
Mm-hmm.
then you just go through there. And if you're not doing it, like in this one, masonry, there's no masonry on it. So it's just zero, but at least you've got all those things listed all the way down through there, whether you need a well or you're using city water, all those kinds of details are on that sheet. And then you can go through and put a budget on it. If you're not using it, you leave it blank.
Right. So, and that's what you're looking for is your estimate for your cost, material, labor, permits, unexpected expenses. And like for yours, if you've got subcontractors and are you being a builder, you probably work with this basically the same general group of subs.
Right.
And I do too. But if you're a homeowner or somebody we call a one and done, I
Right.
highly suggest you get multiple quotes from different contractors. And then also and what I mean by one and done is you will get treated that way.
Right.
If we're their bread and butter, they will drop your job to come to our job. So don't be shocked if they don't seem as responsive to you because you are actually more difficult to deal with. You don't, well, because you don't have the experience, you don't know, you know what I mean? So
You don't know what you're doing.
don't take it the wrong way, but that's the damn truth.
Right.
So the subs are going to be a little harder on you than they would on us because we have the experience. So that's why if it's a huge job, you might want to hire a general contractor.
Yes.
That would be
And
my argument for that. But otherwise, if it's flooring or something like that, yeah, get multiple quotes. Include a contingency fund. A lot of cases, a lot of it is 10 to 20%. If you do your estimate properly, that 10 to 20%, you shouldn't have to do that. Uh,
Hmm.
if you're doing a large scale remodel or a second story addition, then I would recommend putting that away and
Right.
hoping you don't need it. But it's that whole, oh, we didn't know that was there.
Uh-huh.
Like we do site investigation prior to starting, and I would usually find those things, but you just don't know.
Right. You can't know until the drywall's down.
Yeah,
Or you start digging and you find oil, an old oil well that, or an oil tank that was buried. And oh, that's great. Now we have to pull this oil tank out. So
right. I mean, there's just things. So
sure.
fortunately, it doesn't happen that often, and 10% might be even too much depending on the size of the job, right? So
I use 10% all the time.
yeah. All
And
right.
it's better to come in under budget because you didn't need that contingency than to
Right.
come in over budget and wish you had more in that contingency. So
Well, that also scares me because your clients don't have unlimited funds. In other
correct.
words, everybody has X amount of money in the bank. Well, not everybody. I mean, some people have a lot more money than others. But point is that, they could be they may not have any more. You can only go to the well so often.
Correct.
So,
Correct. That's exactly it.
all right, number three, let's develop a project plan. Now, this one's a big one. Ooh, good picture. So let's outline the task step by step. Now, it's funny, your budget is actually a sworn contractor statement, the way it's laid out. And a sworn contractor statement, once filled, usually is in the correct sequence. In
Hmm.
other words, it doesn't have the excavator at the very end, it has the excavator all the way at the top.
Right.
So you want to outline your task step by step: demolition, electrical, installation, so on. So that actually on your estimate should be in that chronological order.
Right.
And if you do your estimate that way, that's going to make it easier to do your schedule. So, you know, you want to have that schedule set out. So my next point is to set realistic timelines for each phase. It's easy to do that. Once you've got your budget put together, and if you're using subcontractors, you go to your subcontractor. How many guys can you commit to my job? Okay, 3 guys. Okay, how many days do you think it will take 3 guys to do this job?
Right.
Oh, it should take 4 days.
Okay.
Boom, there you go. Monday to Thursday, you got that. Okay, so then the next sub can't start till Friday. So you have this critical path that you can follow. It's that simple.
I add a day, sometimes two.
Yeah, no. So what I'll do is typically I'll add the days, like let's say rough. So the plumber, electric, and HVAC, they get their roughs done. I'll call for inspections. Okay, but I will have a back out day before the inspection and a day after before I bring in another sub, like or stock drywall.
Yep.
Just in case I failed that inspection, I want to be able to get them back in there as soon as possible or get the sub back in there. So again, putting in a couple of things, depending on the job. You might just need a rule of thumb, one rain day for every 5 days of work.
Hmm.
It doesn't just stay sunny Monday to Friday and only rain on Saturdays. You lose a Wednesday, that your whole schedule is kaput.
Yep. Exactly.
So that's why I like using spreadsheets. And obviously, there's a lot of good software out there now where you can just add days, bump it, and it'll move all your dates. Spreadsheets will do it automatically as well if you program them properly.
Right. That's exactly it.
And also under that project plan, you want to identify your necessary permits and regulations, right? If you're going to need permits, you better get going on those because you don't want to delay. And I
Right.
repeat that again in step 5, but we'll come back to that then.
Okay.
Step 4, gather materials and resources. So you
Yep.
want to order your materials in advance to avoid delays. So when we say that, you need to talk to, whatever your materials are, whether they're cabinets or plumbing fixtures or whatever, we had a point where cabinets were 24 weeks out.
Hmm.
So if cabinets are 24 weeks out, you can go give them the deposit, get your production date, and then sit there for 2 months before you start your job. There's no
Right.
sense in doing demo,
Correct.
and putting some drywall up or doing some electric and then sitting there with nothing for 2 months.
Right. your
Yeah.
client's not going to be happy either. Or, you know,
No, I mean, so you have to, figure out your worst product. And it's typically cabinets and or custom millwork.
yeah, windows and doors aren't too bad.
Windows and doors is another big one. You're absolutely right. So you want to work all that stuff out. What is your lead time? Tools, rent or purchase the necessary tools. Depending on the tool, I mean, if you need a chipping hammer or something, rent it. If you need a saw, go buy one. But buy a good one,
Yep.
especially if you plan on doing more work around your house, don't buy garbage. Oh,
Yep.
and we always had a deal. If you were doing a project around the house, you get to buy one new tool to make your job easier, right? So your very first tool is probably a level. Then
All your basic hand tools.
yeah. But
Right.
then there, well, I'm going to go do this closet and I got to put a shelf cleat or something. Well, go buy a miter box because now you can run a base casing, so on. But you buy a tool each time, and then that's how you build your collection.
Right.
It works.
Yes.
Hiring contractors if needed. Verify licenses and reviews.
Yep.
So verifying licenses and reviews. And the other thing you might do is check insurance. That's a big one. Get certificates of insurance directly from their insurance carrier. Don't. If the guy goes back to his truck and pulls one out and hands it to you, don't take it. Anybody can get insurance for the day, cancel the next day, and just start passing out bad certificates.
Right.
If it comes directly from it, and if you're named as additional insured or certificate holder, then they will notify you 30 days prior to them being dropped.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing most people skip. They don't ever ask for insurance.
So here's the thing. We've got a whole series on how to select a contractor. So if you want to really dig into that, you can go back and watch those videos too that's posted with this. So that's I don't know, I think that's a 3 or 4 series, 3 or 4 episode series that we did.
Yeah, because we try to keep these to short, 15 to 15 minutes or so. I don't want to do these all, make you sit here for hours and hours. Like this, I'll cut out. Still, they'll never hear that. All right, number 5, make sure you obtain your permits if needed. So local building codes will determine whether you need a building permit, but I suggest you go talk to your building official as soon as you have identified your project. I mean, kitchen remodel, in a sense, you can do it without a permit, but here's the problem. If you do it without the permit, you may not be upgrading your electric properly, right? Your guy may just leave outlets where they are. Well, the code changed. Now you got to have them every 4 feet, not every 8 feet. Yep. The island over 7 foot has to have one on each end. They got to be clear. So there's little things. Individual circuits for appliances. That's always the big one. They weren't done like that before. So it actually protects you to get that permit and get those inspections.
Correct.
So that your house is not only safe, but it's up to a current code.
Yeah. Now, if you're just replacing countertops, painting your existing cabinets, and you're not really tearing that much into them, then you might get away with not having to do the permit. But usually if you're taking the countertops off and you've got tiled backsplash, now you're cutting all that out too. So you've got access to clean up and redo the electric at that point, throw in some under cabinet lighting and,
make it nice.
Exactly.
So, number 6, prepare the workspace. This is my favorite. Clear out furniture or obstacles. So protect the surrounding area with drop cloths or plastic sheeting. So drop cloth's good if you're not going to, you don't want to hurt the floor. The plastic sheeting is a real big one now, particularly in older homes, right? You want to keep your work area separate from the rest of the home.
Yes.
No matter how careful you are, you will make dust.
Correct.
But plastic sheeting over doorways and the like, and covering vents, you will keep the dust out of the other areas.
Right. And you can put a fan in the window, create negative air pressure in that space. So that
Unless
way
it's lead paint.
It out. They make fans to do that.
Yep.
So the other thing we do, floor protection, is we've got sheets of masonite and we put that down on all our floors first. So that way it's protected. And you can drop a screwdriver and not turn around and look and see it sticking out of a brand new floor,
Yeah, and then ensure a safe work environment. I think the keys there is just don't have stuff piled up everywhere is one. 2 is keep a fire extinguisher nearby or a first aid kit. You know, like I actually have a job box that has just that kind of stuff and personal protection equipment, earplugs, safety glasses. Anyway, and then if you have holes in the floors, make sure you cover them with, 3/4 inch plywood. Don't leave open holes anywhere.
Right.
Falls are the worst, right?
Railings and toe kicks and
Yeah, and you can look on OSHA's website. They'll tell you how to protect openings, cross rails on open window openings and things like that, so that people don't just accidentally walk out a hole.
right. Exactly.
All right. Number 7, let's execute the plan. Let's follow the outline steps here. Let's start with the demolition. Complete the work in phases. We said plumbing, electrical. Well, plumbing and electrical before installing walls.
Yep.
It just seems like it'd be a good idea.
Yeah, you don't want to cut the drywall back open.
No.
Go through all, make sure all that's done.
Yep. And then address unexpected challenges without rushing decisions. This is a good point because you run into things sometimes and your first instinct is, I don't need it, just cut it off. And then you're laying in bed that night and you're going, oh crap.
No.
I didn't need that circuit there for what we were thinking, but under cabinet lighting would have been nice. And there's a circuit with a switch right there. That would be nice.
Right.
Or whatever it might be. So yes, you think about it thoroughly, where it is, what it could be used for, and so on.
Before you lop it off.
Yeah. Before you make a final decision, think about it overnight.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Number 8, inspect and adjust. So again, if you're hiring subs especially, regularly check for quality and accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
So that means walk around with a level. That means go around with a tape measure. Just because you told the guy it's supposed to be 4 feet, because you have a 4-foot cabinet go in there and he does the framing at 4 feet, I can tell you after drywall, you're going to be about 3'11".
Uh-huh.
So think and check.
Right. Go through the whole thing.
Yep. And then make the necessary adjustments before a finalizing work and or drywall. Pretty much drywall. If you don't make your adjustments prior to drywall, everything gets 10 times harder.
Right.
Because you can no longer see what's there either. You can't just say, well, let's move that wall back 4 inches. Well, you don't remember what's in that wall. So we take job photos, of course, but
sure.
Anyway. And if you're using contractors, make sure you inspect the work before making final payments. Again, make sure that the work is done to your satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a big job, and this is in all fairness to contractors, if it's a really big job and he's missing 2 door handles and you owe him 10 grand, don't hold 10 grand. Give him twice the value of those door handles. Those 2 door handles have to be really nice ones. Let's say they're worth $100.
Okay.
You can withhold $200 from the contractor and pay him $9,800. Holding
right.
10 grand on a guy means he can't make payroll and this and that.
Right.
If the guy never brings you the 2 doorknobs, then you have $200 to go spend $100. Do you know what I'm saying? So
right.
Be fair with the sub.
Right. But usually the materials, it could be delayed. The handles are back ordered. Everything else is done.
Right. So that's my point, though. Don't hold 10 grand on a guy because 2 pieces of hardware are back ordered. So use some common sense here.
Sure.
Be fair to your contractors, especially if you ever plan on using them again. But again, when I started the show, I said you're probably a one and done, and that makes your life a lot tougher.
Yeah.
So anyway, make sure you check all their work before you make final payments. Finish and clean up. So apply finishing touches like painting or sealing surfaces. You want to clean up all your debris, dispose of your waste properly, and then move furniture and decor back into place. That's when everything really comes together, right? I can't tell how many times we built these massive homes and they really don't pop until the designer runs in there with all their furniture and tables and chairs. And then they put all their little tchotchkes on the shelves. And all of a sudden this big, massive house looks like a really kick-ass home.
Right.
So
right.
I do agree with using designers if you can afford it.
Yes, they are worth their money.
Yeah. Number 10, last and final. Let's review and enjoy.
Yeah, she's relaxed.
Test appliances, plumbing, and electrical systems. Well, that you probably should have done under finish and cleanup or even inspect work before making final payments. I'll just say that.
Right.
Let's review the completed project to ensure satisfaction. Are you happy with what you created? You
Yeah.
should be. A lot of money.
Right.
Then, big key, you have to maintain the upgraded space.
What?
Yeah.
Take care of it?
Everything takes maintenance. I hate it, but it has to be maintained if you want to continually enjoy it. So those are your 10 points or 10 steps to making a successful home improvement project.
There you go. Excellent. All right. So with that, if you've got any questions, comments, anything like that, go ahead and put that down below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and dingle on the bell next time we post something. That way you get notified. And with that, I think that kind of wraps everything up nice and tidy.
Yes, it does.
We wrapped it up. You're enjoying your space now. And then, of course, keep it clean.
Yep.
Take care of it. You've got a huge investment. Take care of it. Don't trash it right away.
Yeah.
So there you go. All right. So, and until next time,
keep it square and level.
there you go. All right. Play the music, Rich.